If you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
It's personal, and I was actually it was hurtful.
I would have to ask black voters the question, like, why do the old white men, who have the most racist legislation towards black people, why are they, the top two front runners when it comes to black support? Joe Biden and Bloomberg.
That's right, run.
Let's go Brandon, gas prices high. Let's go Brandon, tax twice as high.
Sleepy Joe, he got 2 left feet. He always in the basement hiding so we can't be impeached. Hiding so we can't be impeached.
Needed. Feel the burn, make them feel the burn. All the way to the White House, feel the burn. Feel the burn, make them feel the burn. Till the haters on the right, they can feel the burn. Feel the burn, make them feel the burn. All the way to the White House, feel the burn. Feel the burn, make them feel the burn. Till the haters on the left, they can feel the burn. You see him scared shook, he's a democratic socialist, but they don't even know what it means, they just roll with it. Get over it, check the resume, fighting for civil rights ever since the first day. The Pied Piper Bernie Sanders for the middle class. What a GOP wants to put our interests last. With the right ideas to lead this great nation. No handouts, no special interest groups. He don't lie to give votes, telling you the truth. And while the media wants to downplay him, he still gon' fight. Tell him all he ain't playing. Push him for higher wages so we all can feed our families. The only one I know who can conquer this insanity. And when people need health care, kids need school. When it comes to politics, Bernie's breaking rules. No attack against on the competition's needed. He's running on the facts and it's something that we needed. Feel the burn, make him feel the burn. All the way to the White House, feel the burn. Feel the burn, make him feel the burn. Till the haters on the right, they can feel the burn. Feel the burn, make him feel the burn. All the way to the White House, feel the burn. Feel the burn, make him feel the burn. Till the haters on the left, they can feel the burn. Feel the burn, make them feel the burn. All the way to the White House, feel the burn. Feel the burn, make them feel the burn. Till the haters on the right, they can feel the burn. Feel the burn, make them feel the burn. All the way to the White House, feel the burn. Feel the burn, make them feel the burn. Till the haters on the left, they can feel the burn.
Walk up in the club, I feel like I'm Bernie Sanders. Woo. I don't give a fuck, I feel like I'm Bernie Sanders. Woo. Presidential sluts, I feel like I'm Bernie Sanders. Woo. Bitch, I'm Bernie Sanders. Woo. Bitch, I'm Bernie Sanders. Woo. When I'm in your state, I feel like I'm Bernie Sanders. Woo. Put food on your plate, I feel like I'm Bernie Sanders. Woo. Ain't no need to hate, I feel like I'm Bernie Sanders. Woo. Bitch, I'm Bernie Sanders. Woo. Bitch, I'm Bernie. Walk up in the club, I feel like I'm Bernie Sanders. Woo. I don't give a fuck, I feel like I'm Bernie Sanders. Woo. Presidential sluts, I feel like I'm Bernie Sanders. Woo. Bitch, I'm Bernie Sanders. Woo. Bitch, I'm Bernie Sanders. Woo. When I'm in your state, I feel like I'm Bernie Sanders. Woo. Put food on your plate, I feel like I'm Bernie Sanders. Woo. Ain't no need to hate, I feel like I'm Bernie Sanders. Woo. Bitch, I'm Bernie Sanders. Woo. Bitch, I'm Bernie. Walk up in the club, I feel like I'm Bernie Sanders. Woo. I don't give a fuck, I feel like I'm Bernie Sanders. Woo. Presidential sluts, I feel like I'm Bernie Sanders. Woo. Bitch, I'm Bernie Sanders. Woo. Bitch, I'm Bernie Sanders. Woo. When I'm in your state, I feel like I'm Bernie Sanders. Woo. Put food on your plate, I feel like I'm Bernie Sanders. Woo. Ain't no need to hate, I feel like I'm Bernie Sanders. Woo. Bitch, I'm Bernie Sanders. Woo. Bitch.
Priorities they articulate in public are so far from the priorities of Americans that you have to wonder what this is. It's not simply a betrayal of Republican voters, we often call it that. It's much more. It's a declaration of war against Republican voters. In fact, against voters. For the record, here's a complete list of the Republican senators who just voted for gun confiscation. They would include Senator John Cornyn of Texas, Senator Mitch McConnell of Kentucky, Senator Tom Tillis of North Carolina, Senator Susan Collins of Maine, Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina, Senator Bill Cassidy of Louisiana, Senator Roy Blunt of Missouri, Senator Richard Burr of North Carolina, Mitt Romney of Utah, Senator Rob Portman of Ohio, Senator Shelley Moore Capito of West Virginia. How do the West Virginians feel? Senator Joni Ernst of Iowa, Senator Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, and Todd Young of Indiana. Senator Pat Toomey of Pennsylvania was absent for the vote, but he came out in support of it. Now, many of those senators are from America's most conservative states: Indiana, Utah, Louisiana, West Virginia. What were the numbers in the last election in those states? In fact, every one of those states, except for the state of Maine, went for Donald Trump in 2020. You're seeing the color-coded maps of election results in those states on your screen right now. Some of them are entirely red. So again, if you care about democracy, you have to ask, how many of those voters went to the polls in the last election hoping, above all, to elect leaders who support gun confiscation of law-abiding Americans, red flag laws? Not very many. So what we're seeing here, to be clear, is a subversion of democracy. You get to vote for whomever you want in this country. It can be a Republican or a Democrat, a liberal or conservative. But in the end, you're going to get the very same thing every time. You're going to get a weaker U.S. dollar, you're going to get more pointless foreign wars, and you're going to get a lower standard of living for the middle class. In America, as in Western Europe, there's only one flavor of politics allowed, and that is corporate politics. Just as there's only one flavor of media allowed, which is corporate media. And those two forces work together toward the same goal. More power for them, less power for you. Fewer families, more dollar stores. Less choice, more coercion. Less diversity, more sameness. Sound familiar? That's the Chinese model. But for Mitch McConnell, whose family, like so many families in Washington, has become rich from its ties to the Chinese government, it seems normal. But it's not normal. This level of disconnection from what voters actually want is dangerous, and it's destabilizing. Self-government is what keeps countries calm and stable. Democracy is a pressure relief valve. Don't storm the Bastille, vote. If you take that away, or if you strip it of its meaning, people become angry and frustrated. And over time, they become revolutionary. And everyone in Washington knows this. So no wonder they want to disarm you. You can't have guns because they no longer trust you. And they no longer trust you because they know they've betrayed you. Quite aggressively. You've watched it, you're living it. Energy prices, which are the key to any economy, have skyrocketed. That's happened on purpose. This administration has done that, both with its sanction regimes against Russia and its emphasis on, quote, green energy. As a result of those two factors, you're seeing the biggest rise in gas prices in American history. And at the same time, you're seeing a move to green energy forms that we buy from China. Solar panels, wind farms, the components for those come from China. So effectively, you're seeing a transfer of our energy grid from American control to Chinese control. This is an attack on the most basic institutions in American life. This is handing sovereignty over to our main global rival. It's bad for America. In fact, it's the worst possible thing for America. So in a functioning democratic system, this would be a problem for the people trying to do it. You can't undermine the country you lead and expect to continue to lead it in a democracy. And the Biden administration knows this. And that's one of the reasons that the signature tactic of the Biden administration, this is our topic tonight, has been the criminalizing of American politics. Why have a political debate when you can just arrest people who disagree with you? And that has happened far below the media radar since the day Joe Biden was elected. And tonight, to show it, we want to go through a litany, a list of Americans who have been arrested, detained by federal law enforcement on the orders of the Biden administration, not because they committed recognizable crimes, but because they disagreed with the political aims of the Biden administration. Now, again, you're not reading about this in the New York Times because the rest of the media are pretending that it's not happening. And then on November 6, 2021, the FBI raided the homes of several more journalists who work for Project Veritas, including the organization's founder, James O'Keefe. What did they do wrong? Drug trafficking? Human trafficking? No. They reported on a diary written by Joe Biden's daughter, Ashley. And in that diary, Biden's daughter reveals to the rest of us that Joe Biden showered with her in a way that she described as inappropriate and that she blames for making her sexually compulsive in later life. For having access to that information, the FBI raided Project Veritas.
I'm sorry, so what is this regarding?
This is a search warrant. Open up.
Let me see your hand. Let me see your hand. My hand's
So there's another team coming up? Yeah, that's right. So maybe we'll split up until I air you out.
Oh, Trump's a fascist. Remember that? Did Trump's DOJ raid the homes of a lot of journalists who embarrassed his children? No, you don't remember that because it didn't happen. But Joe Biden's Justice Department has done that. And then they kept going. Later that same month, on November 15th of last year, the Justice Department arrested one of the most prominent critics. That would be former Trump advisor Steve Bannon. Now, what did Steve Bannon do wrong? Did he commit a crime on January 6th? No, he didn't. And no one claims otherwise. Instead, Bannon's crime was that he didn't bend the knee for the January 6th committee. He cited executive privilege. According to Nancy Pelosi, that means Steve Bannon belongs in jail.
Do you think people who refuse to comply with congressional subpoenas should be prosecuted by the Justice Department and at the end of the day go to jail?
Yes.
You do?
I do. I do. Well, first of all, this, people say, well, this hasn't happened before. We haven't had an insurrection incited by the President of the United States and one of his toadies having knowledge of, advanced knowledge of that happening. So, in fact, it's important for a number of reasons. It's important for us to find the truth about what happened on January 6th, an assault on our Constitution, our Congress, and our Capitol.
An assault on the Constitution. Okay.
I guess lightning has struck twice in 2021. The reason why I say that is because Candace Owens has said something once again that I can actually agree with, and that's quite shocking. Now, the first thing that she stated that I agree with this year was she talked about how they're offering all the, jabs for free, giving it to everybody. Any store you want to go to, you can have one if you want it, right? Cool. Well, what she brought up, what I agree with, well, why is it they aren't giving cancer medication for free and heart medication and diabetes medication, all these different medications that people need for free? Why aren't they giving that? Why only this? And I stated at that time period, because all those other medications will allow them to keep making money off of the situation. This, when it comes to the pandemic, is hurting the money. Everything about them is money. Now, a lot of people prior to this election got to start taking responsibility now. There were people that had promoted these words, blue no matter who. Well, you got blue no matter who. How has that worked out for black folks? How? Have you gotten anything? What happened to that Lift Every Voice plan that he had? What happened to all that? I mean, that wasn't worth the paper that it was even written on at this point, correct? He's prioritizing everybody else than black folk. You saw what he did to Haitians on the border. Now, all of a sudden, prior to the Haitians showing up, everybody else that isn't black and just waltz on in here and it's okay. He said nothing at all. But when those Haitians showed up, hell no, get y'all behind right back out of here. I'll let maybe a few of y'all in here just to save face. But the majority of y'all going right back to Port-au-Prince. You're not staying here. That was a wake-up call to those that come to this country thinking you're going to get this quote-unquote American dream, when you're seeing other black people living an American nightmare. So Jim Crow Joe is continuing the legacy of his ancestors. Now, the second group of people that I want to address, and y'all have to own this, get mad at if you want. But there was a second group of people that said these words: we're going to vote Democrat down ballot. And you told black people to vote Democrat down ballot. How did Democrat down ballot work for you? How? Where's the result? Look at the results of Democrat down ballot. See, you don't tell black folks to do something like that unless they had a black agenda. And you know good and well Them folks that have a black agenda. Matter of fact, the right move you were supposed to make, those of you who mentioned that Democrat down ballot, you know who you are. You have to own this too. Don't be talking about Biden now and you told black folks to vote Democrat down ballot. When Marianne Williamson went up there with y'all, and you saw how the Democrats did to get her out of there because she was talking too much about reparations, so they had to get her out. The right move would have been, okay, since they don't want the candidate that's talking about reparations, we good. Y'all have it. We're not participating in anything that has nothing with a black agenda.
Hey, Lauren here. Let's talk about the normalization of pedophilia. For literally years now, I have been warning you all that the next step in the slippery slope of progressive activism is to normalize attraction to children. In front of the camera is Noah Berlatsky, and if you've seen my first Prostasia video, you already know some of the background about who he is. In case you missed that, though, really quick recap, he is one of the leaders of Prostasia, and he is also on his social media put out gems like these. He once wrote, quote, "Pedophiles are essentially a stigmatized group. Certain people get designated as deviants. People hate them." Yeah, maybe the reason why pedophiles are designated as deviants is because they're deviants. And I mean, just frankly, pretty deserving of our condemnation. Next, he also, and this is even more concerning if that's possible, wrote, "Young people of any gender who trade sex face arrests and abuse from police. No one is very interested in helping them. The issue isn't that people care about the victims. The issue is that pedophiles are loathed." So when he says young people who trade sex, what he is referring to actually are child trafficking victims, minors who have been sex trafficked, because, obviously minors cannot consent under any situation. So yeah, that's how he chooses to portray the situation. And of course, if you're against this, you don't actually care about children. It's just that you hate pedophiles so much, you are willing to, punish sex trafficking victims just because you hate pedophiles. Yeah, the logic I don't think is really there, but clearly you see time and time again where Noah's sympathies lie. It's not really with the children or the abuse victims, it is with the pedophiles. Also, would it surprise any of you that Noah Berlatsky is also very against the, the sex offender registry? Because he really hates that. In fact, he once said, quote, "Sex offender registries are as racist as the rest of the criminal justice system." And in case you're not yet convinced of what a piece of garbage Noah Berlatsky is, I leave you with this. He put out a tweet saying, "Parents are tyrants. Quote, parent is an oppressive class, like rich people or white people. There are things you can do to try to minimize the abuse that's endemic to the parent/child relationship, but it's always there." So teal dear Noah Berlatsky, he thinks that child sex work should not be criminalized or, made problematic by the police. He does not like parents being maybe involved with their children. He thinks child sex offender registries are a bad thing. And, oh yeah, he thinks pedophiles are unfairly stigmatized. So I wonder what all of those belief systems have in common, or might cause one to possess them. But anyway, I included that clip mostly for the introduction of the guest that Noah was talking to. This person, whose name is Alan, but he doesn't spell it like regular Alan, it's like with a Y or something, because, you need to be special in 2021. He's not just some random crazy person on the internet. He is actually a professor at Old Dominion University. If I got that right, it is in Virginia, and it's an actual real university. So this is someone who is in academia, which should scare everybody, because so many of these different crazy ideas, whether it's critical race theory or destigmatizing pedophilia, yeah, they start within academia, which you might think of as like this ivory tower removed from the rest of society. It's an echo chamber, but no, it does seep into the rest of society, especially since, these people are able to influence their students who eventually are going to be going out into the world. But here's what Alan had to say as to why he uses the term minor attracted persons instead of pedophile in his book, which by the way is titled A Long Dark Shadow, Minor Attracted People and the Pursuit of Dignity. And what again should serve as like a huge red flag for people is that this book is being published by the University of California Press. I saw the really poorly done cover work and I was like fingers crossed hoping that this was just some self-published treatise, but it's like, no, it's with University Press.
I use the term minor attracted person or M.A.P in the title and throughout the book for multiple reasons. First of all, because I think it's important to use terminology for groups that members of that group want others to use for them. And M.A.P advocacy groups like Before You Act have advocated for use of the term M.A.P. They've advocated for it primarily because it's less stigmatizing than other terms like pedophile. A lot of people, when they hear the term pedophile, they automatically assume that it means a sex offender. And that isn't true, and it leads to a lot of misconceptions about attractions toward minors.
So he's just saying, oh, well, I'm just using the term M.A.P because that's what pedophiles like to be referred to as, and I like to use terms to refer to people that they are comfortable with. I guarantee you, like 100,000, 5,000,000%, this is the type of person, Alan, right here, who has no problem referring to someone like Kyle Rittenhouse as a white supremacist.
So he says to me, why did you betray me? This is Alice's boyfriend, obviously. Why did you betray me? And he's just like, I betrayed you because all you do is like protect rich white people. Am I right? Am I right? Am I right? No, seriously, that's what he said. You protect rich people. Rich white people. Little Meg, little Alice, whatever you want to call the creature, she manages to get out of her room and get to a phone. Okay? She gets to the phone and she phones up her dad. Her dad. Oh shit, revealed my secret identity. You didn't see that. Her dad, who she said left her, abandoned her, and didn't go searching for her. She phoned up her dad and says, Daddy, help me. Fuck this show. So what does Do-Ray do? Does he forget about her? Does he go, hoax call, don't worry about it? No, he traces the phone call and comes looking for his lost daughter, who she says, you never looked for me, you abandoned me. Fuck this show, fuck it in its ass. So, Do-Ray turns up at the house, this is 15 years ago, turns up at the house with a gun, tracks it to this house, and he's just like, dude, get out of my way. A call came from this house from my daughter. And the guy says to little Meg, who he captures and throws back in the room, if you make a sound, I will kill them both. Even though Dad's like, big security guy with guns, don't worry about it. So, of course, I shouldn't have a go at this lovely young actress who's going to grow up to be a wonderful actress, I'm sure. Let's just pretend it's Ruby Rose. So, of course, he brings his daughter to a potential kidnapper slash murderer slash psycho slash something else's house. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't... I know I would. It's the first thing I'd love to do if I ever have a child. Hey, where should we go for our first excursion? Do you want to go to Alton Towers? What about Disneyland? No, I've got a better idea. Let's go to a murderer's house! Because fuck this show! And then, we're not even at the bit which made me piss myself laughing. Never mind all this stupidity that's going on. He comes into the house and he's like, no, let me explain. Let me explain what happened. My son, here comes the payoff. Here comes the payoff. My son is really good at doing impressions. And so he says, do an impression of that missing girl that we saw on TV. And so his son does an impression exactly like the girl. Oh, hi, Daddy. Help me, Daddy. Daddy. And I lost it. I couldn't stop fucking laughing my ass off. It had to go off. I was done. But then Pat road came along. So, Jesus Christ, we're 19 minutes in. I'm sorry. And so, don't worry, we're getting to the end. I mean, I'm coming to the end of my fucking tether. And so, anyway, Kate decides to go looking around the house while Do-Ray's upstairs, okay, even though she knows, Alice knows, her father is in the house looking for her based off her phone call that she made to him. And the only reason why she's not saying anything is because the horrible man in the house said, you make a word, you say a word, you make a sound, I will kill them both. Daddy's fault! Daddy's fault. Anyway, Kate goes and gets to the door that Alice is behind. Meg, Alice, whatever. And she's like, Meg, are you there? Meg, I am speaking out to you, asking you if you are there, because I am looking for you. To which Alice, yeah, says nothing. So why is she blaming BatWoman? She's blaming BatWoman. Are you ready? Because her twin instinct didn't kick in that she was behind the door. You didn't psychically think that I was behind the door. It's all your fault. Fuck this show.
A bill, though, passed by the Washington, D.C. City Council last week has gotten some folks upset. It would allow children as young as 11 years old to get vaccinations without their parents' consent. The law says that if a doctor determines that a minor is capable of informed consent, they will be able to seek government-recommended vaccinations if their parents object to on religious grounds. They can also get vaccinated against the human papillomavirus, which is recommended for older children. Some parents oppose it because the virus is sexually transmitted, and they object to their teenagers having sex. The bill was pushed by Councilmember Vincent Gray, who was the chair of the Health Committee. It was approved 12-1, with one holdout being Councilmember Trayon White. With someone as young as 11 years old making the argument against their parents' wishes to get the vaccination. Smart law, bad law.
I think it's a slippery slope. There are some 11-year-olds, probably some 10-year-olds, who are mature. But the majority are still developing. So for someone to supersede, a parent and make decisions for that. And then because I've worked with so many folks in the public health world and the medical world, I know how busy they are. I don't know if they're going to spend enough time with a child, and I want to reinforce that with a child, to actually know where that child is sort of in the developmental process. So I have some real concerns about this. I want everyone to be protected, whether it's from sexually transmitted diseases, whether it's from COVID, or whatever it might be. But, I think there's more thought that needs to go into this and make sure there's some other stopgaps that are there to make sure the parents have the opportunity to fully participate in the process.
We're going to be talking about our old friend Roland Martin. Now, the reason why we're talking about Roland Martin today is because it was something that I said maybe a few years ago about old Roland here. It seemed that I was accurate and spot on, and Roland is just maybe a part of the subject matter. But we're going to talk about how there's a class of black people that are rewarded to keep the oppression of the masses going. And like I said, Roland isn't the only one, but I'm just using him because he's somebody that everybody knows. And Roland at the time is crying. And a lot of people was clowning him at the time, but oh, look, why is he getting all emotional about some voting? And people was talking about that emotion about voting. But at the time, saying, no, it's a little bit deeper than that for Roland than just happy to see Trump get out of office. No, I said it was more to it than that. And I said, that man at the time, I said, that man is crying because he was promised something. Because Roland was going so hard in the paint for Biden and Kamala. I mean, he was attacking people left and right. He was like a dog let off of a chain about how he was attacking folks, black people. Any black person that said anything contrary to what the Democrat Party say, Roland is just, he was calling people stupid, dumb, simple Simon, MFers. Y'all remember all the things that Roland said? Okay? If you look at the picture of Roland, he's about to get on the presidential jet with Kamala Harris. And, you see here, he's out there in front of the jet, and he's saying, woo's a long day. He said he was up since 7 a.m. He only got 3 hours of sleep. He said he was glad he could be heading to Selma with Kamala. And then he says, this is why black-owned media matters. Now, he says that, he means him. I told y'all that anytime Roland talks about media and advertising dollars, he's using black, but that black means Roland, okay? Because if Roland was a true fighter of everybody black getting something, he wouldn't be quiet after he gets something. You remember before he got his sponsorships, he was all this black media. Oh, black media. See how black media don't get anything, and they doing black people wrong, and X, Y, Z. Oh, and then he get his sponsorships and quiet. What happened to black media, bruh? What happened to that? I guess black media just meant you. Always pay attention to that. When somebody say black, what black people not getting, then they get it. They just get quiet all of a sudden. I mean, even if you got it, you still supposed to be on that because you're not the only one, right? But we don't need Roland to crusade anything.
Let's start this brief war briefing with the proper framework and perspective. Who are the most empathetic and sympathetic people on the planet? What group of people are the only group of people that walk around in the midst of their tormentors and not put a hand on them? What group of people are the ones that after a white supremacist shoots up your church and murders 9 of your black parishioners at Mother Emanuel AME Church, turns around and tells them, we forgive you? Which group may have lost a son or a daughter with their hands up and a racist race soldier murders them and the mother and the father come out there, as long as they get that settlement, talking about we can forgive the police officer, all they need is some training? Why am I bringing this up? Because our love for our open enemy and our ability to forgive proves that we're the most sympathetic and empathetic people on the planet. So when somebody tries to lie and push propaganda that black folk are somehow racist or black folks somehow don't appreciate or don't like a certain intersectional group or another group of people like Asian community, we take great offense at that because you all know you lying. Now, you all know that when the pandemic started, it was white supremacist Donald Trump, and all of his lackeys that was calling the virus the Wuhan virus. Trump and other white supremacists are the one that labeled it that in the first place. But you're not seeing large groups come out really upset, specifically with white people for doing that. And your president, JimCrow Joe, the other day, just did a press conference, prime time, and he said, even in that prime time speech where he was supposed to be talking about the virus, he said about how the Asian communities are unnecessarily being attacked and all this other kind of stuff, and it must stop. Family, surely you've heard about the unfortunate attack recently, some days ago, in the Atlanta area, where there were at least 3 Atlanta area alleged massage spas that were targeted by this white terrorist, Robert Aaron Long, 21-year-old, who was responsible for allegedly murdering 8 people. Bottom's statements. Bottoms added that she did not want to blame the victims. It says Robert Aaron Long, 21, is charged with killing 4 women at the Atlanta spas and 4 other people inside a massage business about 30 miles away in Cherokee County. It says Long, who is white, told investigators the attacks were not racially motivated and claimed to have a sex addiction. Now, the reason why they jumped out there to shape the narrative in less than 24 hours later that this is about a hate crime against Asians, so that we wouldn't scratch the surface to do an investigation to really see what was going on and whether or not human trafficking or prostitution rings were going on there. Are they concerned that just like they busted Robert Kraft, ain't no telling what politician or other influencer or powerful person name is going to turn up? Something to think about. What I want to be clear is that this recent incident proved in no limit of time that it was a white man that was responsible. So y'all better shut that down, trying to blame black folk. Y'all are doing that as a distraction. You're doing that because we've been very effective in our demand for justice, our demand for reparations. And so you're trying to come against that, and you're using other people groups to do it.
Now, when they finally decided to leave, the royal family said they had enough. They went to Canada. Now, when they got to Canada, you know, they end up, you know, telling Harry and say, well, you know what? We just not going to protect you no more either. And he said that they cut off his security. So they left him out there to dangle. Like, you know, he was like he said he was shocked that they just say, nah, we're not protecting you no more. Forget you on your own. You understand? See, when you violate white supremacy, there's going to be a consequence. You understand what I'm saying? Especially, and I don't care what, like I said, I'm seeing what some people say. Well, I seen one sister down there until she say she black. I don't care what she say. She ain't got to ever say it. I'm looking at how white supremacy treating her. They treating her like a black folk. That's how they treating her. They treating her like a black woman. You got to remember her mama was always up there at one point in time too. And her mama dark. Okay. So they saw that dark mother. They saw her. They thought that baby could possibly come out like that. Then people, like I said, no matter what people say, let me tell you something. Some people that's ambiguous looking and all of that, they get their wake up call. They usually do it. It sounds like she got it. And if she don't, she has it. I don't care. At the end of the day, she's helping expose global white supremacy. And she all right with me for that reason and that reason alone. Now, Harry said that he was shocked that they removed his protection. They cut him off from the royal family. He ain't getting no money. So he said that around the time of COVID, you know, they was shutting everything down. So he said, well, let's hurry up and get on out of here. And they said, well, let's go to LA because he said he felt that they was a sitting duck in Canada. So when they went out there to LA, you know, they didn't really have a place to stay. Brother Tyler Perry, you know, they hired at Tyler Perry. He told them, look, you can stay in one of my spots, you know, for a few months. Tyler Perry, Megan admitted, paid for her to have and him to have protection. This is what Tyler Perry done for them. See, in a time of trouble, who did Megan look for? Who did Megan look to? She looked to the black community. In this interview, whether we agreed Oprah or not, and trust me, Oprah has done a lot of things, but when she wanted to tell this story, who did she reach out to? She reached out to the black community. She didn't reach out to them folks. I'm pretty sure she had enough of them folks in the UK. So they was in the Tyler Perry's house, you know, until eventually they got their own spot. And of course they made their own deals. He had the money Diana left for him. We don't know how much that is. He didn't say. They made deals with Netflix. They made deals with Spotify, Apple TV. So they good on their own. But they exposed that royal family. Man, let me see what this is. Hold on, let me see something. Okay, I'm good. I just had to check something, y'all. Technical things we had to check. Anyway, that royal family got exposed, and that's a good thing, because how could they retort that? They can't retort to saying that they had this. And the thing is, if she just said it by herself about the baby, that's one thing. When he come back and say, yeah, that did happen, now he didn't want to reveal, you know, what happened. Because at the end of the day, we can't expect him just to go full throttle. That is his family. He did say it wasn't his grandmother, which is the queen, or, you know, I think he said Philip or whatever, Prince Philip. But that's all I want to say. Them two didn't say anything like that. But it means Charles could have said something. William could have said something. You know what I'm saying? It leaves a lot of people's name out there. So now people speculating, okay, who said it? If he eliminated 2 people already. He said at one point in time his daddy even stopped talking to him. Yeah, because you didn't brought that in their mind, that black woman in here. That's how they look at her. You brought that black woman in here. You brought that baby of yours in here, and you messing up the system of white supremacy, Harry. Oh my God, you just like Diana. That's exactly how they start looking at him. And that is a good thing. Because think about it. Prior to Megan showing up, nobody has, I mean, we all said it, but on a global scale, everybody's talking about them. Now, because this is wide open, now these white supremacists here in America and the UK, oh, they hot with Megan. You had old Charlie Kirk with Turning Point USA, that white supremacist. He's talking about, oh, it's just an institution. It's not about her, and all different ones they mad. And you got Donald Trump out of there, sure. And look, everyone else is benefiting. You're not. You getting called, the attacker of Asian people. You being called the racist. Man, notice how they switched to you attacking Asians to they just completely forgot about. They attempted a coup against the United States government on January the 6th. We not even talking about that no more. Everything is black people are attacking Asians. When we know good and well that is not an overwhelming thing. That's something that's coming out of New York, Democrat ran, and California, Democrat ran. Supposed to be our friends, but yet our supposed friends are constantly lying on us and starting a propaganda on us. But they're supposed to be our friends. What kind of friends is that? And now black Americans have finally seen the hustle is that they fighting so hard not to have a voter ID is because they want non-citizens to vote, and that's a hustle. And those non-citizens that want to vote, they'll vote for politicians that's going to give them the bag. You understand? And the reason why that's very dangerous for us as black Americans is because they want to pull resources out of our pockets and our families' mouths. You understand? They say another thing for Biden's eroding of support among black voters and his failure to get voting rights done. They say it comes as as a necessary thing for some of the wing of the Democrat Party. In defiance of Republican filibuster this month, is that Quinnipiac said that would show Biden's black supporters at a disaster 57% were largely taken during the period when the president was treating voting rights as type legislative priority. He did that toward the end. And another thing that pissed a lot of people off was the mandates. Now, if they go back, to August of the last year, they kind of broke up people who, got the jab versus who don't have the jab. And it was saying that people who didn't have the jab, which was a pretty significant amount of black Americans, they only had a 41% approval rating of him at the time. Then the day before he announced the mandates, it was down at 35%. And then it went down to 18% on September the 20th. When people start losing their jobs, when he started telling people they couldn't go into restaurants or bars, when you have people losing their jobs, and then now what ended up happening down the line, which made more black Americans upset, is the Supreme Court rejected his rule for the jabs, and people lost their jobs for nothing. So it's made more black folks mad. Now I know somebody can come by and say it made everybody mad. I understand that. But over here, we disseminate news and information for the black, community globally. So that's why I'm always going to focus on black people. Just to let you know, nothing against nobody, but we got to have our own platforms like everybody else have theirs. Because if you want to talk statistically speaking, black folks had lower unemployment then. Black folks actually was making some money. Just be real with you. At least when Trump was in office, he wasn't giving a bag to everybody else. And we were sitting there watching. The moment y'all got in office, you start giving the bags to everybody else but us. I like it the way Trump got it. Nobody get a bag. If I can't get one, nobody get one. I'm good with that. I'm fine with that. These other groups, oh my God, the Republicans going to get in. I don't care. Let them get in. So? How's that going to hurt my community? Listen, the black community collectively is already at the bottom. How they going to hurt me more? How? When you're already there? Well, you know the Republicans ain't going to do nothing for us, brother. You know, the Democrats is our only hope. Yes, I had a black man say that to me on Instagram. Is the Democrats your only hope? Well, bro, you have no hope. You have no hope. The authoritarian Democrats is the reason why a lot of y'all lost y'all job as black people. Telling you if you don't make a medical decision, you lose your employment. It wasn't like that prior to them getting in office. Now, was it? You can't go to a restaurant. You can't go to a gym. You can't do whatever. Just to go freaking, you know what I'm saying? Why? Okay, a mask mandate, I can agree with that. But I don't agree with telling someone that they got to do something medically just to go somewhere. No. There's a lot of black folks that have lost their job right now due to them. Do you think they're not going to think about that in the midterms? We know good and well the Republicans are not going to play that. That's going to be over with and done with the first day. The Mark Morales, the Al Sharptons, you know, those people, they fighting about some voting rights when if you don't fight for the George Floyd bill, you're going to be right back to what got George Floyd killed. I'd rather fix the race soldier problem before I fix the voting problem. To me, voting rights should be almost to the bottom of our issues that we got in America as black people. The only back that black people got was your back. That's it. And your butt to kiss. That's all black folks got. And they're upset. Then on top of that, you cause a lot of black people to lose their job behind a decision that they should be making with their doctor. Not because you said it. Nobody, if you told everybody, hey, if you vote for him, you're going to lose your job, it's guaranteed you'll lose your job. You've been like, oh, hell no, I ain't vote for him. I ain't trying to lose my job. I got bills to pay. Black people didn't vote to be losing their jobs. They didn't vote for that. But you came in office doing that mess. And you know it hurts black people more than any other group. So a lot of black people are pissed off about losing their jobs, too, behind a medical decision. You say, because this is my thing. You talking about Trump. At least Trump was equal opportunity in what he was doing to everybody. But when Biden said everything will go back to normal. Yeah, normal is black folks getting nothing and all these other groups getting something. That's normal. But when Trump was in office, ain't nobody was getting nothing. Not like that. Not the way he's doing it. Just saying. You know, and then Trump, you know, he did like the First Step Act was a good thing. I look at that as a good thing. Some brothers and sisters actually came home with the First Step Act. I looked at that as one of the good things, you know, for the black community. Some people, if you got the money for it, the Opportunity Zone thing is good if you got money. That doesn't really help the average black person. But, you know, really, Trump didn't enact no laws on black people. He didn't even start a propaganda on black people. The moment Biden got in office, there was a propaganda started on the black American community talking about black people, they attacking Asians. You remember all that? You remember that? And then after they got that bill signed, what happened to the attacks? I mean, all of a sudden the attacks went away?
So we got some free giveaways.
Jasiri X helped turn out the vote for President Biden in 2020. But now
you have a lot of black people that feel like we sacrificed a lot to make sure this administration came in and we haven't collectively reap the benefits.
The Pittsburgh activist says Biden has failed to deliver on his promises.
There's been a direct attack on our voting rights. That hasn't been addressed, right? We did all of this organizing around police reform, but like the opposite has happened. It's almost like we're last on the agenda.
Black support for President Joe Biden at an all-time low. I'm not talking about just low based on the standards of the Biden administration. I'm talking about low based on the standards of polling data as it relates to Democrats in the modern era. That's how bad it is. You go from almost 80%, 77% of black support is typically connected to various congressional races in the midterm election cycle. That's how it works in a normative cycle. Sometimes that number is even higher. When you have an effective president, you have a hyper turnout. When you have an ineffective president, at least as it is interpreted by the voting masses, you have a depressed turnout. Now you have what's called an anomaly. This is not normative whatsoever. This is the lowest polling we have seen ever connected to black voters and Democrats. That's a problem. Now, I know some people will say, black people just need to get up and vote. No, black people need to have a reason to vote. This is a job interview. It's an application process. You are hired as a politician. That vote is the board of directors saying they have confidence in your ability to deliver. So let's talk about the deliverables. When you run on a platform that says, vote for us and here's what we're going to do for you. We're going to deliver you criminal justice reform. We are going to deliver a pay equity model. We are going to build back better. We're going to make sure that if you vote for us, we are going to protect your rights, voting rights being primary. And then after a couple of years, you're saying, well, we're not able to do it because of these other factors we did not calculate during the time we told you we could do it. This is a new era of politics. Joe Biden is an institutionalist. Remember when he said that nothing will fundamentally change? Remember he said that? We should have believed him. There's more. And listen, I'm harsh, I know, but I'm harsh for a reason. I need them to snap out of it. I need them to snap out of it because they are not connected to the communities that I'm connected to or you're connected to. They're in a bubble, they're in a silo. They're not adversely affected by these policies like we are. They don't get to see it and feel it and be in the atmosphere of it like we do. So I'm hoping they snap out of this. That's why I'm willing to give them tough love today.
The second thing I will say that I hope comes out of this, Brother Richey, is that black voters realize they've been led astray by the black leadership class, honestly. You look at cats like Clyburn whipping up votes for Biden, church leaders, you name it, all of these black institutions that get out the vote for the Democratic Party and be like, they're gonna get it done for you guys. They're gonna get it done for the folks. I would hope that the masses of black people would look at the black leadership class and have some strongly worded questions for those people as well.
Very well said. And I remember a few years ago, a woman named Michelle Nunn was running for the US Senate from the state of Georgia. She was not successful, but an email leaked to the media from her campaign. And this email was part of their campaign strategy. And was it laid out a policy plan in order to obtain the Jewish vote, a policy plan in order to obtain the white female voters, a policy plan for white males. And then when it got to black voters, it simply said, go to the churches, get influencers. There was no policy sentence connected to their internal campaign strategy to motivate black voters to vote.
They've been running this game on us for 40 years, Dr. Richey.
Yeah, time out for that. All right, 62%, and the numbers going in the wrong direction still.
You can say you heard it here first, maybe somebody else said it on Fox News, but Eric Adams is the Obama of New York. He will give you a cleverly crafted statement that seems to be the truth with a scintilla of potential truth, and it won't mean anything. Look, you're right about the bill. When you look at the 140 ATF agents that would be hired in one scenario under the bill, it would have been for ghost guns enforcement, other gun grabbing policies by the Biden administration and the left. But let's go to the core of this. Eric Adams is deflecting because he won't take responsibility and then he won't take action based on what's worked in New York so far. Over the decades, I've watched New York change from the bad old days to the good. What happened? Stop, question, and frisk. The broken windows theory, going after low-level crimes. He talks about how there is a lower rate of crime versus pre-COVID right now, especially in the subways. But when you're not charging people, whether they're turnstile jumpers or otherwise, you're going to have a lower rate on the CompStat reports.
I donated to Biden, which I did. I supported Kamala Harris from day one, which I did. I even starred in Biden's victory video, America the Beautiful. I was in it. I did more in the 2020 election to actively work for someone's campaign. I did more than I've ever done in my entire life for any candidate whatsoever. And I'm disgusted. I said a year in, I'm disgusted with them both. I'm disgusted with Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. I have been a consistent Democratic voter for 16 years. I voted for Biden thinking that he was the safest choice. Before I started supporting Biden, I was a Kamala Harris supporter. But Biden, I'm furious at. What do I not like about the Biden administration? Well, day one, Biden turned Title VII and Title IX inside out. If you want to know why you have Leah Thomas, that man swimming in competing against women in swimming competitions, that's why. Gender identity. If I had known Biden was this much of a genderist, there's no way I would have voted for that man. No way.
Biden's first debate performance in June was widely written off as a disaster. It seemed pretty obvious he had zero chance at the nomination. And then Bernie Sanders started to win primaries. For the second presidential cycle in a row, Sanders proved to be the only Democrat in the field with legitimate grassroots support. Donors saw this and they panicked. The guy who hates billionaires? What's he going to do to Wall Street? So Sanders was unacceptable to the people who fund the Democratic Party. But there was a problem. What were the options? Pete Buttigieg and Beto O'Rourke? No. Both had turned out to be lighter than air. Elizabeth Warren? Double no. Kamala Harris was horrible on every level. Absolutely nobody liked Kamala Harris, and for good reason. So it turned out to be Joe Biden by default. Get off the Biden signs. We're all in. And of course, the media got the message immediately. By the time he was inaugurated, here's what the press corps was telling you about Joe Biden.
Anybody who has any connection to reality about what is going on around them should have watched that and said, the adults are back in the room.
It seems as though we have a professional adult once again in the White House who's just simply doing the work.
Really, the theme, I would say, is the adults are back.
Still, it is a relief to have adults in charge.
Now we have adults in the White House.
Okay, the adults are back in the room.
There is a sense, I think, the world over that the adults have returned.
We have an adult in the White House now, and it's glorious.
These people. Never an original thought among them. He's an adult. It's glorious. Well, half true. Biden is certainly an adult. He'll be 80 this fall. But no one in Washington thinks the Biden presidency is glorious anymore. They think it's a disaster. Polls show that voters strongly agree. Joe Biden is now the most unpopular person in virtually any room he enters. If you doubt it, watch this. This was the scene at the White House today. Take a careful look at this. You've never seen anything like it. That's the President of the United States in his own house, shunned. Nobody would talk to him. So Biden wandered off looking vacant as a crowd formed around a former president, Barack Obama, who was obviously deeply grateful for the attention. And then it got worse. It got much more poignant than that. Watch Biden try to horn in on the conversation swirling around Obama. Everyone involved in that conversation, including Kamala Harris, who supposedly works for Biden, ignored Biden completely. Biden desperately tried to get Obama's attention. He puts his hand on Obama's shoulder. He even calls him Barack, like they're friends. But Obama blows him off. He acts like Biden's not even there. Head spinning yet? Yeah. Okay, just one more. Here's Sandy Cortez, who has finally turned on Joe Biden. Now, it was just a year and a half ago that Sandy's job was to use all the street cred she'd earned growing up in the leafy suburbs of Westchester and then heading off to Boston University, to use all of that urban credibility to convince the young people that actually Joe Biden was okay. Yeah, he's old and white, but go ahead and vote for him anyway. He's got Sandy's seal of approval. Selling Joe Biden was her job, and of course she did it. She's always been much more a dutiful party apparatchik than a revolutionary. But not anymore. Sandy Cortez sees change coming. If there's one thing she's good at, it's knowing the prevailing wind. So she's happy to attack Biden. Watch this.
We need to acknowledge that this isn't just about middle of the road, an increasingly narrow band of independent voters. But this is really about the collapse in support among young people, among the Democratic base, feeling like they are not, that they worked overtime to get this president elected, and they aren't necessarily being seen.
Oh, so Sandy's out. That means everyone's out. What's going on here? Well, exactly what it looks like. The Democratic Party and its media wing have decided to jettison Joe Biden. There was never an official order to do this. What you're watching here, as always, is the hive mind at work. Democrats have the same reactions because they have the same instincts. Biden is weak, we must get rid of him. Now, to most people that sounds harsh and unforgiving, but in the animal kingdom, it's an entirely natural response. It's the first rule of dog packs, for example. If a single dog wavers or lags behind, the other dogs will kill him, even if they're from the same litter. Yes, it's fratricide, but it's nothing personal. It's a matter of group survival. And that's exactly how the Democratic Party operates. Individuals are irrelevant to the party. The group is all that matters. No one at the DNC actually cares about Joe Biden or ever has, or for that matter, cares about George Floyd or Greta Thunberg or David Hogg or anyone else they tell you is an irreplaceable hero. All people are expendable. What matters is the party, and the party matters because in numbers there is power. And of course, on some level, Joe Biden knows this. He spent his life in the Democratic Party. He's never worked outside the Democratic Party. So he understands how this ends. Inevitably, after 50 years, it is his turn to be eliminated. Will he scream for mercy like Beria did, or will he take it like a man? That's the only question.
I know what matters most to you and your family because I am you. Energy prices to heat your home, gas prices to run your cars, food prices to feed your family. Everything is up. Our ability to live is being squeezed. Biden did this. We need people in D.C. who understands what it's like to live on a budget. Together, let's fight for our economy. Vote for me, Kathy Barnette, to fight for you.
Oh my goodness. So what I typically hear is, why won't black people vote Republican? I don't understand. That's what I typically hear from your average white Republican, okay? And it's stuff like this, which is why. it's scenarios like this, which is why Republicans don't get the vote. And the reason being is because Republicans don't want the black vote. Republicans have in modern times never wanted the black vote. Like I said, they don't care for black people. And the thing is, black people aren't dumb. We know, hey, we may not be able to sit at the table when it comes to Democrats, but when it comes to Republicans, y'all won't even allow us inside the House. Nevertheless, this leads us now to Kathy Barnette. Now, Kathy Barnette is running for the Senate seat in Pennsylvania. And let me just be perfectly clear. This is not in any way, shape, or form an endorsement of Kathy Barnette, because she is very much a conservative. When it comes to Kathy Barnette, she kind of soft pedals around black issues and stuff like that. Well, you know, when it comes to systemic racism and systemic problems like that, I have, you know, a child, a black son, and she'll soft pedal it. And I'm just thinking, why do we have to soft pedal this stuff? Obviously, there are certain problems when it comes to police brutality. Obviously, there are certain problems when it comes to systemic racial issues, when it comes to reparations. These are obvious things. Why is it that black people are the only group that has to soft pedal their grievances to the country? Why is it it's only black Americans have to soft pedal their problems and their grievances when in politics, in the political arena? White people have never, in the history of this country, in the history of this planet, ever soft pedaled anything. When it came to 2016, where they always say, hey, Muslims, y'all gotta get out of here. When it came to the gay marriage, hey, y'all can't do that. They've never soft pedaled anything. Literally anything. When it came to the border and Trump, we got to get the border because we don't want these illegals in here. And when it comes to other countries, right? Hey, we don't want these foreigners in here. We're losing our culture and everything. They've never soft pedaled anything. Asians haven't soft pedaled anything. When it comes, hey, we got to stop Asian hate and all this. But when it comes to black grievances, when it comes to black issues, we always have to soft pedal it to make sure, you know, massa isn't going to get upset. And I've just realized, nah, this is the problem. This is why we are in the predicament we're in. This is why we're in the problem we're in right now, where you have white people talking about CRT who don't even know what CRT stands for, okay? They don't even know what it stands for, much less the idea or the concepts. Aside her politics, because once again, I don't actually approve of her at all, but that's not to say I approve of Dr. Oz or anyone else who's running. But nevertheless, this goes to show you how racist, when it comes to Republicans, how racist they are. Anyone but a black person. That's what it is. Because they have Dr. Oz on. Now, you know, Dr. Oz, you have Sean Hannity peddling Dr. Oz. They are running a smear campaign on this woman, trying to attack her for beliefs that the majority of the party, or at least the core base, encompass. Right? They're coming out with tweets of her talking about Muslims and whatnot. You know, Obama was a Muslim.
2016 reads, quote, "Don't we get it? Obama is a Muslim." And there are lots of these tweets.
I'm sorry. Was that not the talking point of the Republican Party when he was running? And what are we talking about here? This is what you're going to try to attack her on? And she went on and say other tweets about Muslims. And, you know, Muslims this and Muslims, you know, they're not Americans and all this. This is exactly what the core white dominant audience of the GOP, of the Republican Party, resonate with. So I don't understand how this is like, how is this a gotcha? If anything, you're actually giving her more votes. Then they come out with the tweet of her talking about, well, there's a homosexual on a plane.
From another 2013, she says, "Please pray for my babies and me. We're about to board the plane to California, and there's a homosexual female," and linking out to a Facebook post.
Lord, pray for me. I'm sorry, but if I was in Pennsylvania, she would have gotten my vote with that tweet. Lord, pray for me. I'm in the presence of evil and bussy. This is dumb. This is everything the Republican Party has consistently stood for. But I want you to understand, it comes to the point. This is the option. You're either a bona fide racist or you're in a cult of 45. It comes to a point in time where either you're a cult or you're racist. That's really it. If you're in the cult, well, it's like,
okay, Trump nominated Dr. Oz. Let's go vote for Dr. Oz. That's good. That's good.
So that's what we have. You're either cult 45 or you're a racist. You're like, yo, I mean, she doesn't really represent the country, like Tucker Carlson said, which is nothing more than a dog whistle. Well, she's not white. Because he said that about Ketanji Brown Jackson. It's gotten to the point where I don't know how more public the Republican Party can be for saying, hey, I don't like black people. That's pretty much what the Republican Party has stated time and time and time again. Even when they get someone of their own, someone who's espousing the same talking points that they want everyone to talk, that they want people to regurgitate. Hey, I'm not a victim, right? Even her campaign is like, hey, I'm a byproduct of my mother having the child at 11, forcefully. Essentially the R word. And I'm like, that's not really an argument for pro-life. If anything, that's an argument for pro-choice because she chose to have the baby, right? Unless she was forced, in which we don't agree with forcing people to do stuff, right?
They tried to browbeat Cornel West. This was hard to watch. The segment went off the rails. Let's watch parts of it and then we'll discuss.
Cornel West. Dr. West, 749 cops, rocks, bricks, Molotov cocktails, 22 cops in D.C. hospitalized for concussions. We saw a 38-year police veteran murdered in St. Louis. We have a cop in Vegas shot in the head, 749. Do you support this madness of defunding the police?
Well, let me first say it's just good to be in dialogue with you. God bless your loved ones. And as you know, we just buried old brother George.
There's universal, Professor, there's universal agreement.
We got to keep this day has been a very, very heavy day for many of us, my brother. So in talking about
universal agreement,
let's try to be clear about this now. We must have respect and there must be ability to protect. You have to have police who respect the community. There has to be some community control, accountability of both citizens and police. and recognizing that the deeper issues of poverty, dilapidated schools, housing, shattered family communities, not enough jobs with a living wage, that generates a despair.
Professor, let me ask you, serious question.
But there has to be democratic control over the police, though,
Professor, I need to ask you. Every liberal big city, Chicago, run decades by Democrats. They've allowed the violence, and they have failed our American children with the most horrific schools in the country.
Goes to the police. They don't have enough housing. They don't have enough education, and they certainly don't have enough jobs with a living wage. That's under Rahm Emanuel. Now, I'm no fan of Rahm Emanuel, but I'm certainly no supporter, as you know, you and your good friend, Brother Trump himself.
Why didn't Rahm Emanuel? Why did he not fix the violence?
But I'm going to ask you in the name of truth.
Okay, Leo, why didn't he fix the violence? Why haven't they fixed our broken school systems? We have failed America's children.
You know, Sean, you asked Dr. Cornel West the type of question you asked in a court of law. He won't answer them because he's just giving you old talking points. I'll speak to you, Dr. Cornel West, black man to black man. There's looting going on, and you try to conflate. No, it's my turn. It's my turn. You try to conflate protesting and police misconduct. And shame on you. And you're absolutely wrong. You won't address the issue. You will refuse to address the issue because I'm talking to you. You're not my brother. You're not my brother. You are hurting black people by acting this position. You are taking the wrong position. That's it. No, my brother. That stuff plays out. That plays out. Address the question. Do you? Oh my gosh! You have lost control. You're a dinosaur. You're an outright dinosaur. You have lost it, sir. I'm not part of your group. I'm not part of your group. You have lost it. You are a dinosaur.
If you can't get along with Cornel West, something's wrong with you. You did something wrong if you can't get along with Cornel West. Because Cornel West is one of the most loving, open-minded, open-hearted, is that a word? Is that a phrase? I don't know. Term, whatever. I have, one of my friends actually ran into him one time in the airport and, asked for a picture. And he was just so kind and happy and willing to engage. And you see this all the time. There's nobody who he won't talk to. And go look at, he went on Joe Rogan's podcast a while ago, and it was just such a great conversation. Now, him and Joe don't agree on everything, but he's fine with that. He's, again, willing to have these discussions and willing to go into places that are maybe uncomfortable for people who are rigidly partisan. So for this guy to treat him as he did, I mean, that really is disrespectful and shameful and pathetic. Again, if you can't get along with him, something's wrong with you. So, basically the question from Sean Hannity was a standard Fox News Republican type question, which is, hey, cops got hurt too, and do you agree with defunding the police, and do you think that violence on cops is wrong? It was just like a standard setup, right-wing kind of Hannity framing. And Cornel West's response was, it's good to be in dialogue with you. So, it's, nice to talk to you. It's a very sad day because we just buried Brother George Floyd. Then he says, quote, we must have respect and there must be the ability to protect. And then he goes on to say, both civilians and the police. So, for some reason, they didn't think that was a direct answer. He's saying very clearly, we need to protect both civilians and police. I'm not in favor of wanton violence against the cops, any more so than I'm in favor of the cops doing wanton violence against the civilians. I mean, I thought that answer was very, very clear. They're trying to pretend like he dodged it. And then, of course, you go right back to Sean Hannity, and he goes right back into his talking points. All these big cities are run by Democrats. So aren't they to blame for all this?
You've heard the phrase a lot lately, democratic socialist. It's suddenly very common on the left. Bernie Sanders has called himself a democratic socialist. So has New York congressional candidate Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. What is democratic socialism? We thought it'd be worth pausing for a minute to find out. Democratic socialism is not, by the way, a wing of the Democratic Party, at least not yet. It's an entirely separate movement with its own national organization, the Democratic Socialists of America. 2 years ago, the DSA endorsed Bernie Sanders and opposed Donald Trump, but did not endorse Hillary Clinton. So at times, it has been antagonistic to the Democratic Party. What do Democratic Socialists believe? There's no formal platform, but the outlines are pretty clear. Democratic Socialists support socialism, state ownership of major industries. That would include healthcare, technology, manufacturing. Some of them explicitly support communism. The perfect moment to speak to possibly the most famous of all advocates for democratic socialism, Cornel West. He's a professor at Harvard. He's an honorary co-chair of the Democratic Socialists of America, and he joins us tonight. Cornel, thank you for coming on.
No, thank you, and it's good to be in dialogue with you once again, though, brother.
Yes, it is. So to give us some sense of what democratic socialism is, can you point to an example, an extant example of it that works? Venezuela seems like an example of democratic socialism. Would you say that it is? And if so, does it work?
No, I don't think that democratic socialism as an ideal has been able to be embodied in a larger social context. There's different forms of it. Some are bad, some are medium, some are better. But the fundamental commitment is to the dignity of ordinary people and to make sure they can live lives of decency. So it's not an ism, no, brother. It's about decency. It's about fairness. Right. It's about the accountability of the powerful vis-a-vis those who have less power. At the workplace, women dealing with the household, gays, lesbians, trans, black people, indigenous peoples, immigrants. How do we ensure that they are treated decently and that the powerful don't in any way manipulate, subjugate, and exploit them?
Well, I mean, if that's what democratic socialism is, then I'm basically on board. I do think that ordinary people, middle-class people, ought to have dignity, and I think that our current systems make it hard for them to have dignity. So I agree with all of that. And we get some sense that there are political elements, mostly in the Democratic Party, not exclusively though, who would like to see a war in Europe. What is this, and how concerned should we be about it? Tulsi Gabbard has paid a lot of attention to this. She's a former member of Congress from the state of Hawaii. We're happy to have her on tonight. Congresswoman, thanks so much for coming on. So is this conflict moving toward war, and are there leaders in this country who would like to see that, do you think?
It is moving in a very dangerous direction, and the question for the American people is, are we willing to go to war with Russia on behalf of Ukraine? And we need to understand that such a war would come at a cost beyond anything that we can really imagine. Because this is not a war that is just, okay, this is going to be something that's happening to someone else, somewhere else on the other side of the world. No, this is something that will directly impact me and you, Tucker, every single one of your viewers, and all of our loved ones. And this is a war that is not a game. It's a war in which there are no winners, because you've got, thousands of nuclear weapons that the United States has aimed towards Russia. Russia has thousands of nuclear weapons aimed towards us that could hit any town or city in America in less than 30 minutes and exact a cost upon every one of us that would result in excruciating death and suffering beyond comprehension.
Why in the world would we ever contemplate going to war with Russia, honestly?
It is one that we should not do for those very reasons. Yeah. If you look at the impacts of what a nuclear war brings, it really brings about the end of the world as we know it. And our leaders should understand this consequence and take it seriously. And this is why President Biden, instead of continuing to escalate tensions and continuing this new Cold War between the United States and Russia, he needs to de-escalate these tensions, kind of, take the heat out of it and actually focus on bringing an end to this new Cold War. Because if he doesn't, then it's not a question of if we go to war with Russia, if this war ends up with a nuclear holocaust. It really is then just a question of when. And if we continue down this path that we are on, it's something that could happen a lot sooner than any of us think.
And all I'm getting is that we can feel morally satisfied because we hate Putin. Is there something that I'm missing?
No, I don't think you're missing anything. The reality is that these sanctions don't work, whether they were put in before or now or later. These sanctions don't work. What we do know is that they will increase suffering and hardship for the American people. And this is the whole problem with the Biden administration. They are so focused on how do we punish Putin that they don't care and are not focused on what is actually in the best interests of the American people. So when Biden stands there and looks directly into the camera and says, you know, defending freedom will cost us, what he really should be saying is looking directly into the American people's eyes and saying, this will cost you, because these sanctions are not going to cost him or Kamala Harris or the power elite in this country, even the power elite in Russia. It is the people who will suffer, the American people, the Russian people, people here at home working hard every single day, facing those drastically increasing prices at the gas pump, facing increasing costs at the supermarket, impacting our supply chain. The hardships that people are dealing with every day now with Biden's sanctions plan, we're only going to see that continuing to get worse. And it doesn't end there, Tucker. This is the problem is you think Russia's not going to respond. You think Putin's not going to respond. He will respond. And it's likely he'll retaliate using cyber attacks on our financial systems, our communication systems, on our basic infrastructure. Biden will then be forced to respond. Putin will then be forced to respond. So we end up in this endless tit for tat that leads us where? To this looming threat and likelihood of this thing going nuclear. And again, this is the reality that we all need to understand is true, is that whether it is intentional or unintentional, when you have two great nuclear armed countries at this point of escalation, and then if there is a nuclear attack, the power elite, these people are going to go hide in their bunkers. They'll have their shelter. They'll have their food and water and everything that they need. You and I and the American people, we will be left out to deal with the consequences, to suffer and deal with that destruction and death that will come as a result.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
And when we talk about high gas prices, it is important also to be talking about the fact that the largest oil companies in this country today are enjoying record-breaking profits.
It's $100 and it's not even a full tank.
Gas prices soaring to the highest average ever recorded.
Whether it's Mobil Exxon, whether it's BP, whether it's Shell, whether it's ConocoPhillips, we're looking at incredible profits at the same time as working people are being forced to shell out more and more just to get to work.
It's definitely some pain at the pump.
I just filled up right now, and it cost me $50 versus normally it costing me $30.
At a time when oil profits are at a record-breaking level, it is appropriate for the government to impose a windfall profits tax.
Right now, as we speak, invading Russian military forces are moving across Ukraine. We are witnessing the most massive military operation in Europe since World War II. There must be no ambiguity in acknowledging that what the whole world is seeing today is nothing less than a blatant violation of international law and of basic human decency. This war will likely kill thousands of people and create millions of refugees. At a time when the global community is already struggling with the COVID pandemic and climate change, this war could plunge Europe into long-term economic and political instability. Make no mistake about it, the effects of this war will be felt here in the United States and countries throughout the world.
Just today in the Chicago Tribune, if we can put this up on the screen, surfaces this photo of a young Bernie Sanders, you know, wearing, I think, painter's pants and his Stan Smiths and horn-rimmed glasses. It looks a bit like Al Franken, being arrested in 1963 on the south side of Chicago in the midst of the civil rights movement. I think that's a picture that's going to speak 1,000 words.
It's a nice one, and he's able to point to a couple of other things a half a century ago or so. But you're right, Michael. If that begins to crack, I'd say she's in real trouble. I'm not as worried about Vegas on her behalf, but yeah, if the African-American support fades, I think she really needs to go into desperation mode at that point.
Do you think he has a chance?
Oh, absolutely. Bernie Sanders?
You really do?
Okay, well, let me ask you this. Absolutely, I do. Now, let me ask you this. Who of the Democrats do you foresee really beating him?
Beating Trump?
No, beating Bernie in the primary.
Well,
it's a good question, right?
It's a very good question. He's got a lot of support, for sure. But Elizabeth Warren seems to have a lot of support right now, too.
Okay, so that's your answer, right, Elizabeth Warren?
Yeah, I would say, well, Joe Biden's fucked. He's too old, but old in the wrong way. Like his communication skills have eroded. He flubs his words. He looks exhausted. He looks like he's just waiting for them to shut the door so he can take a big deep breath and just sink into the couch. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I know exactly what you're saying. And sometimes I feel bad because it appears like he genuinely has cognitive decline.
Yeah,
so
he does.
So I don't like to make fun of it. But then when he goes out there in the debate and he starts like angrily ranting and he says, you know, we got to play the record player at night. Make sure the kids hear words. It's like, that made less than no sense, man. What are you doing? You got to wrap it up. Did you know that his people are actually, they have a plan. It's called like a limited exposure or limited visibility campaign where, Joe, they are literally like hiding him from the public as much as possible.
Well, they have to.
They have to.
Because he's still close to the lead, right?
Oh, in some polls, he's still leading.
That is hilarious.
But see, and here's the thing.
Who are you going to vote for in the primary?
I think I'll probably vote for Bernie. Him as a human being, when I was hanging out with him, and
Yeah.
I believe in him. I like him. I like him a lot. What Bernie stands for is a guy who, well, look, you could dig up dirt on every single human being that's ever existed if you catch them in their worst moment and you magnify those moments and you cut out everything else and you only display those worst moments. That said, you can't find very many with Bernie. He's been insanely consistent his entire life.
Bernie Sanders received an unexpected endorsement from Joe Rogan. And Sanders' detractors on the left have actually been very critical about the fact that the Sanders campaign has chosen to take this endorsement and amplify it.
Exclusively to react, the man managing the legislation, Senate Budget Committee Chairman Bernie Sanders of Vermont. So Senator Sanders, Chairman Sanders, Senator Manchin says he can't get there. This is a no. He's tried everything. What's your reaction?
Well, I think he's going to have a lot of explaining to do to the people of West Virginia to tell them why he doesn't have the guts to take on the drug companies and lower the cost of prescription drugs, why he is not prepared to expand home health care. West Virginia is one of the poorest states in this country. You got elderly people and disabled people who would like to stay at home or forced into nursing homes. He's going to have to tell the people of West Virginia why he doesn't want to expand Medicare to cover dental, hearing, and eyeglasses. I've been to West Virginia a number of times, and it's a great state, beautiful people, but it is a state that is struggling. And he's going to have to tell the people of West Virginia why he's rejecting what the scientists of the world are telling us, that we have to act boldly and transform our energy system to protect future generations from the devastation of climate change. You know, what's going on now, Jake, in Washington is the big money interests are pouring hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars to make sure that we continue to pay the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs, that the rich do not start paying their fair share of taxes. And I would have hoped that we could have had at least 50 Democrats on board who have the guts to stand up for working families and take on the lobbyists and the powerful special interests.